There is a reason you stopped here. Out of everything you could be doing, out of every distraction pulling at your attention, out of every voice competing for your focus, you are here, reading this, right now. And something deep inside you, something you cannot fully explain, told you not to scroll away. That feeling, that pause, that quiet pull in your spirit, that is not random. That is not coincidence. That is not algorithm. That is divine interruption. You see, there are moments in life when heaven does not whisper, it intervenes. Moments when time itself seems to slow down just enough for your soul to catch up with what God has already set in motion. And this very second you are in, is one of those moments. Because let's be honest, something has felt off lately, hasn't it? You've been carrying a weight you can't fully explain. Smiling in front of people, but feeling a quiet heaviness when you're alone. Trying to stay strong, trying to stay hopeful, but deep down, there's been this question echoing in your heart. God, when is it my turn? When will things finally shift? When will the breakthrough come? When will the silence break? You've prayed. You waited. You've cried when no one was watching. You've held on when it would have been easier to let go. And yet there were moments when it felt like nothing was changing. But what if I told you something has been changing? Not around you, but for you. Because while you were waiting in silence, heaven was moving in strategy. While you felt overlooked, you were actually being positioned. And while it seemed like nothing was happening, everything was being prepared. That's why this message had to interrupt you. That's why you felt that pull to stay. Because tonight is not ordinary. Tonight is not like the other nights where you went to sleep with questions and woke up with the same weight. No, something is different in the atmosphere. Something has shifted in the unseen realm, and it has your name written all over it. Archangel Michael, the warrior of heaven, is not silent right now. He is watching. He is standing. And yes, he is weeping. Not out of weakness, but because he has seen what you've endured. He has witnessed the battles you never spoke about. The moments you almost gave up but didn't. The silent wars inside your mind, your heart, your spirit. And heaven has not been ignoring you. Heaven has been recording everything. Every tear. Every prayer. Every moment you chose faith when fear would have been easier. And now something is about to be released. But here's what you need to understand. This message is not reaching everyone. Out of millions of people, this moment was aligned specifically for you. That means something in your life has reached a tipping point. Something has shifted from waiting into receiving. That's why you couldn't scroll past this. That's why something inside you said, pay attention. Because heaven is not casually speaking to you right now. Heaven is calling you into awareness, into alignment, into a moment that cannot be repeated the same way again. So don't miss this. Don't overthink this. And whatever you do, don't walk away from this moment too quickly. Because what begins here will unfold in ways you did not expect. And the next part will reveal why your name is being spoken in heaven right now and what it means for the miracle that is about to reach you. This is only the beginning. Type I am ready in the comments if you feel this message. Blessing code 1717 is now activating around you. There is something happening right now that you cannot see with your physical eyes, but your spirit has already begun to feel it. It's subtle at first, almost like a whisper carried on a distant wind. But if you listen closely, if you quiet the noise around you, you will begin to recognize it. There is a sound rising in the unseen realm. A sound that is not random, not chaotic, not meaningless. It is intentional. It is focused. And that sound is your name. Yes, your name is being spoken in heaven. Not once. Not casually. Not as a passing thought. But repeatedly, deliberately, with purpose and power. Here is a calling, an echo, a divine announcement that is moving through the spiritual atmosphere, and it is centered around you. This is not something that happens for everyone. This is not a daily occurrence in the heavens. This is a moment of recognition, a moment where your life, your prayers, your endurance have reached a point where heaven itself is responding. Have you ever felt like you were forgotten? Like your efforts went unnoticed? Like your struggles were invisible to everyone around you? You kept showing up, kept believing, kept hoping, but there was no applause, no validation, no clear sign that anything was changing. It felt like you were calling out into silence. But what you didn't realize is that while the earth seemed quiet, heaven was listening. Every time you whispered a prayer under your breath, heaven heard it. Every time you held back tears and chose to keep going, heaven recorded it. Every moment you resisted the urge to give up, even when it felt justified, heaven acknowledged it. And now, all of that has built into something powerful, something that cannot remain hidden any longer. Because there comes a moment when what has been stored in the spiritual realm must be released into the natural. There comes a moment when silence breaks, when waiting transforms into movement, when unseen preparation becomes visible manifestation. And that moment begins with a call, a divine call that carries your identity, your story, your name. Right now, there are angels who have been assigned to your case, to your journey, to your destiny. They are not confused about who you are. They are not uncertain about your path. They know your name. They have been watching your process. They have been standing in position, waiting for the command to move on your behalf. And that command is being activated. This is why you have been feeling a shift lately, even if you couldn't explain it. Something inside you has been stirring. A restlessness, a sensitivity, a strange awareness that something is about to happen. You may have tried to ignore it. You may have brushed it off as emotion or overthinking. But it wasn't. It was your spirit picking up on the sound of heaven calling your name. And when heaven calls your name, things begin to move. Doors that were closed begin to unlock. Situations that felt stuck begin to shift. Conversations that needed to happen begin to unfold. Opportunities that seemed distant begin to come closer. It doesn't always happen loudly at first. Sometimes it begins quietly, beneath the surface. But once the call had been made, the process cannot be stopped. This is where you are right now, in the middle of that call. But there is something important you must understand. When your name is being spoken in heaven, it is not just a celebration. It is also a summoning. It is an invitation for you to step into alignment with what has already been prepared. Because heaven can call your name, but you must choose to respond. And this is where many people miss their moment. They hear the call, they feel the shift, but they hesitate. They doubt. They second guess. They allow fear or familiarity to pull them back into old patterns. But you cannot afford to do that now. Not in this moment. Not when everything is aligning the way it is. Because the sound of your name in heaven is not just about where you've been. It's about where you are going. It is a declaration that your season is changing. It is a signal that your waiting is ending. It is a confirmation that what you have been believing for is no longer distant. It is approaching. And even now, as you hear these words, that sound is growing stronger. The call is becoming clear. The movement is becoming more defined. You are not imagining it. You are not overthinking it. You are standing at the edge of something real, something significant, something that has been building for longer than you realize. But this is only part of the story. Because while heaven is calling your name with power and purpose, there is a deeper emotion behind it. A weight, a compassion, a response that goes beyond recognition. And in the next section, you will understand why Archangel Michael himself is not just watching but weeping for you, and what that means for what is about to be released into your life. Type "My name is heard in heaven" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2222 is now surrounding you. There is something deeply sacred you need to understand in this moment. Something that shifts everything you thought you knew about your pain, your struggle, and your silent endurance. Archangel Michael, the warrior of heaven, the one who stands with authority and unshakable strength, is not distant from your story. He is not observing you from afar without emotion. He is not detached from what you have walked through. He has been present in ways you never realized, and what he has witnessed has moved heaven itself. And yes, he is weeping. Not because you are weak, but because you have been strong for far too long without recognition. Not because you are defeated, but because you have carried battles that were never meant to be fought alone. His tears are not a sign of sorrow without hope. They are a response to the depth of what you have endured in silence, the kind of endurance that no one around you fully understood, the kind of strength that was never applauded but never stopped either. He has seen the nights when you lay awake, staring into darkness, trying to make sense of everything that felt like it was falling apart. He has seen the moments when your heart was heavy, when your mind was filled with questions that had no immediate answers, when your spirit felt stretched beyond what seemed possible. He has seen the restraint you showed when you could have reacted, the patience you carried when you wanted to walk away, the faith you held onto when doubt tried to consume you. There were moments when you smiled in front of others, but inside, something was breaking. Moments when you said you were fine, but deep down, you were asking for relief. Moments when you questioned whether anyone truly saw you, whether anyone truly understood the weight you were carrying. And while people may have missed it, heaven did not. Archangel Michael stood in those moments, not interfering prematurely, not disrupting the process that was shaping you, but witnessing every detail with precision. He saw the unfairness. He saw the delays. He saw the disappointments that came just when you thought things were about to turn around. He saw the doors that closed without explanation, the opportunities that slipped away, the relationships that shifted without clarity. And what moved him the most was not just what happened to you, but how you responded. Because even in your confusion, you did not completely lose your faith. Even in your exhaustion, you did not fully surrender to hopelessness. Even when you questioned everything, there was still a part of you that refused to let go completely. That part of you, that quiet resilience, that hidden strength, is what has echoed through heaven. That is why his tears carry meaning. They are not tears of helplessness. They are tears of recognition. They are tears that signal that your season of silent suffering has reached its limit. There comes a point when heaven no longer allows the weight to remain without release, when the process reaches completion, when the endurance gives way to reward. And you are standing at that point now. You may not have realized it, but every tear you shed created a response in the spiritual realm. Every moment you held on added to something that has now reached fulfillment. There is a spiritual balance that has been building, a measure that has been filling, and now it has reached the place where it must overflow. That overflow is not random. It is intentional. Because the same Archangel Michael who wept while watching you endure is now standing in position for your release. His tears have transitioned into action. What he witnessed has now become the reason for what is about to be released into your life. This is not sympathy. This is activation. And you need to hear this clearly. Your pain was never ignored. Your struggle was never meaningless. Your endurance was never wasted. Everything you went through carried weight, carried purpose, carried significance beyond what you could see at the time. There is a reason why the atmosphere feels different right now. There is a reason why something inside you feels like it is about to shift. It is because the stage of observation has ended, and the stage of intervention has begun. What was once watched is now being responded to. This is why you must not shrink back in this moment. This is why you must not dismiss what you are feeling. Because the same heaven that witnessed your lowest points is now lining your highest breakthrough. The same presence that stood with you in silence is now moving on your behalf with power. And this is only building towards something even greater. Because if his tears were the response to your past, then what is coming next is the answer to your future. What happens next will reveal why tonight has been marked, why this exact moment carries urgency, and why what is about to unfold cannot be delayed any longer. Type Heaven SAW My Pain in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3333 is now activated around you. As this moment settles into your spirit, understand this. Every revelation you receive is not meant to stop with you. It is meant to flow through you like a river of living water, reaching souls who are still wandering in darkness, waiting for a voice that carries truth. When you sow into this mission through the PayPal link in the description, or the super thanks below, you are not giving to a channel. You are planting seeds into the harvest field of heaven itself. The word declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not just a verse. It is a living command breathing over your life right now. I feel led to say this clearly. I am stepping into this moment of obedience because someone out there needs what God has placed here. Your giving becomes light. Your seed becomes oil. Your act becomes a prophetic response that unlocks more messages like this for those still waiting. Do not delay this moment. Do not ignore this stirring, because what you release now, heaven will multiply beyond what you can imagine. Step forward, give with faith, and watch how God opens the windows over your life. There are nights that pass like every other night, where nothing feels different, nothing feels shifted, and you go to sleep carrying the same weight you woke up with. But then there are moments in time that are marked. Moments that are not ordinary, not routine, not accidental. Moments where something in the unseen realm reaches a breaking point, and when that happens, everything begins to change at once. Tonight is one of those moments. You may not see it yet with your eyes, but something has reached its limit. The pressure you have been under, the delay you have endured, the cycles you have been caught in, they have all been building toward this exact point. There is a spiritual threshold that has been crossed, and once that line is crossed, what was held back can no longer remain restrained. That is where you are right now. You are not in the middle of random waiting. You are standing at the edge of release. Think about everything you have been through recently. The repeated patterns that made no sense. The moments where it felt like you were making progress, only to be pulled back again. The emotional highs followed by unexpected lows. A confusion that seemed to come out of nowhere. None of that was meaningless. None of that was wasted. It was all part of a buildup. A pressure system forming beneath the surface, preparing for a moment of breakthrough that could not happen prematurely. Because if it had happened earlier, you would not have been ready to sustain it. If it had happened before now, you would not have fully understood it. If it had happened before this point, it would not have carried the same power that it does now. Timing is not just important in the natural, it is critical in the spiritual. And tonight, the timing is aligned. This is what you need to understand. There is a difference between delay and denial. What you experienced was delay, but delay has an expiration point. There comes a moment when what has been delayed is released with force, with momentum, with impact. And when that moment arrives, it does not trickle in slowly. It begins to move quickly, almost suddenly, in ways that catch you off guard. That is why tonight feels different, even if you cannot explain it. There is a tension in the atmosphere, a sense that something is about to happen. You may feel it as restlessness, as anticipation, as a strange awareness that you cannot ignore. That is not anxiety. That is alignment. Your spirit is recognizing that something has shifted, even before your mind fully understands it. Archangel Michael is not standing in observation anymore. He has moved into position. The moment of watching has passed, and the moment of action has begun. This is what happens when a breaking point is reached. The same force that once held things back now begins to push things forward. The same resistance that slowed you down now becomes the pressure that accelerates your movement. And here is what makes this even more significant. This is not just about one area of your life. This shift is connected to multiple layers of your journey. What begins to move now will not stay confined to one situation. It will begin to ripple outward, affecting things you did not even realize were connected. That is why this moment carries so much weight. It is not a small adjustment. It is a turning point. You have felt stuck, but you were not stuck. You were being held in place until everything was aligned. You have felt delayed, but you were not denied. You were being prepared for release that required precision. You have felt uncertain, but you were not lost. You were being guided through a process that had to reach completion. And now, completion has been reached. This is why you cannot treat tonight like any other moment. This is why you cannot fall back into old thinking, old patterns, old expectations. Because what is happening now requires a different level of awareness. It requires you to recognize that you are no longer in the same place you were before. The breaking point has already occurred in the unseen. What follows next is the manifestation of that shift in your visible reality. And when it begins, it will confirm everything you have been sensing. It will validate everything you have endured. It will reveal that nothing you went through was in vain. But there is still more you need to understand. Because what you experienced as delay was not empty time. It was filled with activity you could not see. There were battles taking place, movements happening, alignments forming behind the scenes. And in the next section, you will begin to understand the hidden battles you did not see, and how they directly connect to the miracle that is now being released into your life. Type "Tonight is my turning point" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 4444 is now surrounding your path. There is a truth you must come to terms with right now. Something that will change the way you look at everything you have been through. What you experienced was never just physical, never just emotional, never just circumstantial. There were battles taking place around you that you could not see, movements happening in the spiritual realm that your natural eyes were never meant to detect. And yet, those battles have shaped every delay, every confusion, every unexpected turn you have faced. You may have thought it was just bad timing. You may have believed it was coincidence, misfortune, or simply life unfolding in unpredictable ways. But what if it was more than that? What if behind every closed door there was a force resisting your progress? What if behind every moment of confusion there was interference designed to distract you from clarity? What if behind every delay there was a confrontation happening that had to be resolved before you could move forward? Because the truth is, there has been resistance. Not random resistance, but targeted resistance. Not meaningless opposition, but strategic pressure aimed at slowing you down, wearing you out, and causing you to question everything you believe about your path. And the reason for that resistance is not because you are weak. It is because you carry something valuable. You carry something that could not be released without opposition. This is what you need to understand. Anything that carries purpose attracts resistance. Anything that carries destiny faces opposition. And anything that is meant to shift your life at a higher level will be contested before it is released. That is why your journey has felt heavier than expected. That is why things have not come easily. That is why progress has often felt like a struggle instead of a flow. There were moments when you felt like you were moving forward, only to be pulled back without explanation. Moments when clarity seemed close, only to be replaced by confusion. Moments when you felt ready, but circumstances did not align. Those were not random setbacks. Those were moments where unseen battles were taking place, where alignment had not yet been secured, where certain things had to be moved out of the way before your path could open. And while you were trying to understand it from a surface level, Archangel Michael was engaged in those unseen battles. He was not absent. He was active. He was standing in the gap between what was meant for you and what was trying to block it. He was confronting what you could not confront, resolving what you could not see, and ensuring that what belongs to you would not be permanently taken away. This is why some things did not collapse completely, even when it felt like they would. This is why you were protected in ways you did not recognize. This is why certain outcomes did not happen, even when everything seemed to point in that direction. There were interventions happening behind the scenes, adjustments being made, outcomes being redirected. But those battles required time, not because heaven is slow, but because alignment requires precision. There were elements that had to be addressed, forces that had to be confronted, and conditions that had to be met before the release could happen. You were not being ignored. You were being covered. And now those battles have reached resolution. What you could not see has been handled. What you did not understand has been aligned. What was resisting your progress has been confronted. That is why the atmosphere feels different now. That is why there is a shift happening that you cannot ignore. Because the resistance that once slowed you down no longer has the same power. You are stepping out of a season where everything felt like a fight, and into a moment where things begin to move. Not because the world has suddenly changed, but because the unseen obstacles have been removed. The path that once felt blocked is beginning to clear. This is why you must not carry the mindset of struggle into this next moment. You must not expect resistance where release has already been authorized. Because if you continue to think from the place of past battles, you may not recognize the shift that is happening right in front of you. There is a difference between being in a fight and being in a flow. And right now, you are transitioning from one into the other. The effort that once felt exhausting will begin to feel different. The movement that once felt restricted will begin to open. The clarity that once felt distant will begin to come naturally. But this transition requires awareness. You must recognize that you are no longer in the same position you were before. You must allow yourself to step into what is now available, instead of holding on to what has already been resolved. Because the battles you did not see are no longer holding you back. And this leads to something even more important. Because if the battles have been resolved, then what comes next is not another delay. It is the truth about everything you have been waiting for. It is the understanding that what felt like waiting was actually preparation, and that your delay was never denial. That is what you will begin to see in the next section. Type "The battle is over" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 5555 is now activated over your life. There is something your spirit has been trying to understand for a long time. Something your heart has wrestled with in quiet moments when no one else was around. It is the question that rises when time stretches longer than expected, when answers do not come when you ask, when doors remain closed even after you knock. That question is simple, but it carries weight. Why has this taken so long? You have asked it more than once. You have felt it in moments of frustration, in moments of exhaustion, in moments when hope felt harder to hold on to than doubt. Because from where you stood, it looked like delay. It felt like delay. It seemed like everything was moving for others, but not for you. And over time, that feeling began to blur into something deeper, something more personal, something that made you wonder if what you were waiting for would ever come at all. But what you experienced was never denial. It was preparation. And there is a difference that changes everything once you truly understand it. Denial closes the door completely. Denial removes the possibility. Denial ends the conversation. But what you have been walking through never closed the door. It only held it in place until the right moment. What you interpreted as silence was not rejection. It was timing. What you felt as distance was not abandonment. It was positioning. Because there were things within you that needed to be strengthened before what you were asking for could be sustained. There were areas of your mindset that needed to shift. Areas of your perspective that needed to mature. Areas of your spirit that needed to deepen. Not because you were lacking, but because what is coming requires a different version of you than the one who first started asking for it. If everything had been given to you at the moment you first desired it, you would not have seen it the same way. You would not have valued it the same way. You would not have handled it with the same level of awareness you now carry. The waiting season was not empty time. It was a process of transformation that happened quietly, often without your full awareness, but with precise intention. Think about how much has changed within you during this time. The way you respond to pressure. The way you handle uncertainty. The way you view situations that once would have overwhelmed you. Even the way you listen to your own thoughts has shifted. You have become more aware, more discerning, more grounded. That did not happen by accident. That happened because the delay created space for growth that could not have been rushed. There were also things around you that had to align. People had to move into position. Situations had to unfold in a specific order. Circumstances had to shift in ways that you could not control. If what you were waiting for had arrived earlier, it would have entered an environment that was not yet ready to support it. And when something enters the wrong environment at the wrong time, it does not thrive the way it is meant to. So the delay was not just about you. It was about everything connected to what is coming into your life. It was about timing that had to be exact. It was about alignment that had to be complete. It was about preparation that had to reach its full point. And now, that point has been reached. This is why everything feels like it is shifting at once. Because what took time to prepare is now ready to be released. What took time to build is now ready to be revealed. What took time to align is now ready to move. You are no longer in a waiting season. You are in a transition. And transition feels different. It carries a sense of movement, even before anything visible changes. It carries a sense of expectation, even before results appear. It carries a quiet knowing that something is about to unfold, not eventually, but soon. That is what you are feeling now. That is what has been building beneath the surface. But here is what you must not do. You must not carry the mindset of delay into a moment of release. Because if you continue to expect things to move slowly, you may miss how quickly things begin to shift. If you continue to doubt timing, you may hesitate when opportunity appears. If you continue to question whether it will happen, you may not fully step into it when it does. You have to recognize that the season has changed. The waiting is over. The preparation is complete, and what you thought was delay was actually the foundation for what is about to come into your life with clarity and force. This is where your perspective must shift completely, because once you understand that you were never denied, you begin to see everything differently. You begin to see that every moment you questioned had a purpose. Every delay had direction. Every pause had meaning. And now, all of that meaning is leading to something specific, because what has been prepared is not just waiting to happen. It has already been authorized. And in the next section, you will begin to understand what that authorization means and why heaven has already said yes to what is about to be released into your life. Type "I was never denied" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6666 is now activated over your journey. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey where everything shifts, not because of what you do in that exact second, but because of what has already been decided beyond your sight. It is a moment when the unseen realm reaches agreement, when what has been held back is finally approved, when what has been forming in silence is given permission to move. That moment is not based on chance. It is not random. It is authorized. And right now, you are standing in that authorization. Heaven has said yes. Not a hesitant yes. Not a delayed yes. Not a conditional yes. A complete, undeniable, irreversible yes. The kind of yes that does not need to be repeated, because once it is spoken, everything begins to align around it. This is not a future possibility. This is a present reality unfolding in real time. You may not have heard it with your ears, but your spirit has already begun to respond to it. That subtle shift you have been feeling, that sense that something is different, that quiet expectation rising inside you, that is the echo of heaven's decision reaching your awareness. Because when heaven speaks, it does not always arrive as a loud announcement. Sometimes it comes as a deep knowing, a calm certainty that replaces confusion. For a long time, you have been asking, you have been hoping, you have been waiting for confirmation that what you desire, what you believe for, what you have held on to through every challenge, would actually come to pass. And in that waiting, there were moments when doubt tried to enter. Moments when you wondered if the answer would ever come, if the door would ever open, if the shift would ever happen. But what you did not see was that your request had already been received. What you did not realize was that the process of approval had already begun. There are decisions that take time not because they are uncertain, but because they must be executed with precision. There are outcomes that require alignment at multiple levels before they can be released into your life. And while you were still asking, still waiting, still wondering, heaven was already moving through that process. And now that process is complete. The authorization has been given. This is why everything is about to move differently. Because once something is authorized in the spiritual realm, it does not remain static. It begins to move toward manifestation. It begins to arrange itself in ways that you could not have predicted. Situations begin to shift. People begin to act. Opportunities begin to appear. And often, it happens in ways that feel sudden, even though they were prepared long before you noticed them. This is what you are about to experience. The yes that has been spoken over your life is not limited to one small area. It is connected to everything that has been waiting for release. It is connected to the doors that seemed closed, the answers that seemed delayed, the outcomes that seem uncertain. When heaven says yes, it does not release one thing while holding everything else back. It creates movement across everything connected to that decision. But there is something you must understand in this moment. Authorization does not mean passivity. It does not mean you sit back without awareness. It does not mean you ignore what is happening around you. Because when something has been authorized, it requires your alignment to fully receive it. You must be present. You must be aware. You must be ready to recognize what is unfolding. Because sometimes the answer you have been waiting for does not arrive in the form you expected. Sometimes it comes through a conversation, a realization, an opportunity, a shift in direction that at first may not look like the miracle you imagined. But if you are aligned, if you are aware, you will recognize it for what it is. This is why your mindset matters now more than ever. You cannot approach this moment with doubt. You cannot approach this moment with hesitation. You cannot approach this moment expecting delay when delay has already ended. You must step into this moment with the understanding that something has already been set in motion, something that cannot be reversed, something that is moving toward you with intention. Because the yes from heaven is not fragile. It is not temporary. It is not something that can be easily undone. It is established. It is active. It is already working in ways you are about to see. And as this begins to unfold, you will start to notice changes. Not all at once, not all in the same way, but in clear, undeniable moments that confirm that something has shifted. Moments that make you pause and realize that what you have been waiting for is no longer in the distance. It is here. This is the beginning of manifestation. This is the transition from unseen to seen. This is where everything you have been through starts to make sense. But there is still more you need to understand. Because the authorization is only the beginning. What follows next is the moment of manifestation itself. The way this yes begins to take form in your life starting tonight. That is what you will begin to see in the next section. Type heaven said why yes to me in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7777 is now activated over your life. Here is a moment when everything shifts from being unseen to being undeniable. A moment when what was once felt only in your spirit begins to take shape in your reality. A moment when the invisible becomes visible, when the internal becomes external, when what you believed for finally begins to show itself in ways you cannot ignore. That moment is not coming someday. That moment begins tonight. You have already crossed the point of waiting. You have already stepped beyond preparation. You are now entering manifestation. And manifestation does not always arrive as one sudden, overwhelming event. Sometimes it begins as a series of precise, intentional shifts that unfold in perfect sequence. Subtle at first, but unmistakable once you recognize the pattern. Tonight, something begins to move. You may notice it as a shift in your thoughts, a clarity that replaces confusion, a calmness that replaces pressure. You may feel a release inside you before you see it around you. That is the first sign. Because manifestation often starts within before it appears externally. What changes inside you begins to influence everything outside of you. Pay attention to your awareness tonight. Pay attention to what you notice, to what feels different, to what stands out in ways it did not before. Because what is being released is not random. It is precise. It is Dardian. It is connected to everything that has been building up to this point. There may be conversations that happen unexpectedly. Moments where something is said that shifts your perspective instantly. Opportunities that appear without warning, but feel aligned in a way you cannot explain. Situations that begin to resolve themselves after feeling stuck for so long. These are not coincidences. These are the early signs of manifestation taking form. You may also notice something else. A sense of peace where there was once tension. A quiet confidence where there was once doubt. A feeling that something is working in your favor, even if you cannot yet see the full picture. This is not imagination. This is alignment. When manifestation begins, your spirit recognizes it before your circumstances fully reflect it. But you must stay aware, because manifestation requires recognition. If you are distracted, if you are consumed by old patterns of thinking, if you are expecting things to happen in a specific way, you may overlook what is already beginning. The answer you have been waiting for may not arrive in the exact form you imagined, but it will carry a clarity that confirms it is real. Tonight is the starting point of that clarity, and once it begins, it does not reverse. Once manifestation starts, it builds. It grows. It unfolds layer by layer, moment by moment, until what was once unseen becomes fully established in your reality. This is not a temporary shift. This is the beginning of a new direction. You have to trust what you are sensing. You have to trust what you are noticing. Because your awareness is your confirmation, there will be moments where you pause and realize that something has changed. Moments where you look back and see how things are no longer the same. Moments where you recognize that what once felt distant is now within reach. These are the markers of manifestation. These are the signs that what hath been authorized is now being released. Do not rush this process, but do not ignore it either. Stay present. Stay attentive. Stay aligned with what is happening. Because the more aware you are, the more clearly you will see what is unfolding. And the more clearly you see it, the more confidently you will step into it. This is your moment of transition from believing to experiencing, from hoping to receiving, from waiting to witnessing. And it begins now. But there is something important you must understand as this unfolds. Because even though manifestation has begun, your alignment still matters. Your response still matters. The way you move from this moment forward will determine how fully you step into what is being released. And in the next section, you will understand exactly what you must do right now to stay aligned with this moment, to ensure that nothing is missed and everything that has been released finds its place in your life. Type "I receive my miracle tonight" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8888 is now activated over your life. As this moment of manifestation begins to unfold, understand that what is flowing into your life right now is meant to overflow into the lives of others. This is how heaven moves, not in isolation, but in multiplication. When you sow into this mission through the PayPal link in the description, or the super thanks below, you are not giving to a platform. You are igniting light in places where darkness has been waiting too long. The word speaks, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and it will return to you." And this is your moment to act on that living promise. I feel this deeply. I am stepping into this act because I know God is using this message to reach someone beyond me. Your seed becomes a river, your giving becomes oil, your obedience becomes a gateway for more souls to receive what you just received. Do not hesitate, because this is not just support. This is participation in a divine flow that is active right now. Step forward, release your seed, and watch how heaven responds over your life. There is a critical truth you must understand in this moment, something that will determine how fully you step into what is already being released into your life. The miracle is not something you chase. It is not something you force. It is not something you struggle to make happen. It has already been set in motion. It has already been authorized. It has already begun to manifest. But your alignment with it, that is where your responsibility begins. Because even when something is divinely released, it still requires your awareness, your posture, your readiness to receive it without resistance. This is not about doing more. This is about being aligned differently. Right now, you must shift your focus. You cannot remain mentally anchored in what did not work before. You cannot keep replaying the delays, the disappointments, the confusion that marked your previous season. Because what you focus on determines what you recognize. And if your mind is still locked into past patterns, you may overlook what is already unfolding in your present. This is the moment to become aware of your thoughts. Pay attention to what you are telling yourself. Pay attention to the assumptions you are making. Are you expecting things to go wrong because they did before? Are you bracing yourself for disappointment even though things are shifting? Are you questioning whether this will actually work out, even as signs begin to appear? You must interrupt that pattern. Because doubt, when carried into a moment of manifestation, can distort what is actually happening. It can make you hesitate when you should move. It can make you question what is clear. It can make you delay your response to something that requires immediate alignment. You do not need to force belief. You simply need to allow clarity. And clarity comes when you stay present. This is not the time to rush ahead mentally. This is not the time to overanalyze every detail. This is the time to observe, to notice, to remain grounded in what is happening right now. Because the more present you are, the more you will recognize the shifts as they occur. Alignment also requires that you release what no longer fits. There are thoughts, expectations, even attachments that belong to your previous season that cannot follow you into this one. Not because they are wrong, but because they are no longer relevant. Holding on to them creates resistance where there should be flow. If something feels out of place, pay attention to that. If something no longer aligns the way it used to, do not force it to remain. Because alignment is not just about receiving what is coming. It is also about letting go of what is no longer meant to stay. This is where trust becomes essential. You must trust what you are sensing. You must trust the shifts that are happening within you. You must trust the direction things are beginning to move, even if you do not yet see the full picture. Because alignment is not about having complete understanding. It is about being willing to move with what is unfolding, even when it requires you to step into something unfamiliar. There is also something else you must do in this moment. You must stay open. Open to the way things are happening. Open to the form in which your answer arrives. Open to the possibility that what you are receiving may look different from what you expected, but still carry exactly what you need. Because sometimes the miracle is not a dramatic event. Sometimes it is a precise adjustment, a conversation that changes everything, a realization that shifts your entire perspective, an opportunity that places you exactly where you need to be. If you are too focused on a specific outcome, you may miss the form in which it arrives. So stay open, stay aware, stay aligned with what is unfolding, not just what you imagined. And above all, do not pull back. Do not retreat into hesitation. Do not shrink in this moment. Because this is where many people lose their alignment. Right at the point where things begin to shift, they hesitate. They second guess. They wait for more confirmation, even though confirmation is already present. You cannot afford to do that now. You have already come too far. Everything that has led to this moment has brought you to a place where movement is required. Not rushed movement, not forced action, but responsive alignment. Moving when you recognize what is happening. Responding when something opens. Stepping forward when the path becomes clear. This is your role in this moment. To recognize. To remain present. To stay aligned. Because the miracle is not something distant anymore. It is something active. And your alignment determines how fully you step into it. But there is still something you must be aware of. Because even in moments of release, there can be distractions. There can be influences that try to pull you back into old patterns, back into doubt, back into hesitation. And in the next section, you will understand the warning you must not ignore, the things that could interfere if you are not aware, and how to protect what is now unfolding in your life. Type "I am in alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9999 is now activated over your life. There is something you must hear clearly in this moment, something that may not be comfortable, but is absolutely necessary for you to understand. Even when a miracle has been authorized, even when manifestation has begun, there are still forces, patterns, and influences that can interfere if you are not aware of them. Not to stop what heaven has declared, but to delay how fully you step into it. This is why this warning is being given now, not to create fear, but to sharpen your awareness. Because not everything around you has shifted yet, even though you have. You are entering a new alignment, but some of the environments, conversations, and thought patterns that surrounded your previous season may still try to pull you back into what is already behind you. This is where the subtle danger exists. Not in something obvious or dramatic, but in something familiar. Something that feels normal. Something that feels comfortable. Something that did not immediately appear harmful, but quietly disrupts your alignment. One of the first things you must guard against is returning to old thinking. You have spent so much time navigating uncertainty, delay, and resistance that your mind has adapted to expect those patterns. It has learned to anticipate difficulty. It has learned to prepare for disappointment. And even now, as things are shifting, there may be a part of you that is still waiting for something to go wrong. That expectation, if left unchecked, can distort your perception. It can make you question what is clear. It can make you hesitate when you should move. It can make you overlook what is unfolding because it does not match what you were used to. You must recognize when this is happening and interrupt it immediately. Because what you expect shapes how you respond. And how you respond determines how fully you receive what is already being released. There is also something else you must be aware of. Not every voice around you will reflect your new alignment. There may be people who still see you based on your past, who still speak to you from a perspective that no longer matches where you are going. Your words may not be intentionally harmful, but they can still carry influence. They can introduce doubt, hesitation, or confusion if you allow them to shape your thinking. You do not need to argue. You do not need to explain. You simply need to recognize that not everyone is aligned with your current moment, and that is okay. But you must not allow their perspective to override what you are sensing within yourself. Because your alignment is not determined by external validation. It is determined by your awareness of what is happening in your own life. Another thing you must guard against is distraction. Not every distraction looks negative. Some distractions appear productive. Some appear harmless. But anything that pulls your attention away from what is unfolding in this moment can weaken your alignment. Because alignment requires presence, and presence requires focus. If your attention is scattered, you may miss key moments. If your energy is divided, you may not respond when something opens. If your awareness is clouded, you may overlook what is already in front of you. This is why you must be intentional with where your attention goes. Not in a restrictive way, but in an aware way. Notice what pulls your focus. Notice what drains your energy. Notice what creates confusion instead of clarity. And make a conscious decision not to give those things more space than they deserve. There is also the temptation to rush. When you begin to feel that something is happening, there can be an urge to accelerate everything, to force outcomes, to push situations forward before they are ready. But rushing is just as misaligned as hesitation. Because manifestation unfolds with its own timing, even after it has begun. You must allow things to move naturally. You must respond when it is clear, not when it is forced. You must trust the pace of what is unfolding, instead of trying to control it. Because control creates resistance, and resistance disrupts flow. And finally, you must guard your belief. Not in a rigid way, not in a forced way, but in a consistent way. There may be moments where doubt tries to re-enter, where old questions try to resurface, where uncertainty tries to make you second-guess what you are experiencing. That does not mean something is wrong. It simply means you are transitioning. But you cannot allow those moments to take over. You must return to what you know. You must return to what you are sensing. You must return to the awareness that something has already been set in motion. Because belief is not about ignoring reality. It is about recognizing the deeper reality that is unfolding beneath what you can immediately see. This warning is not here to make you cautious in a fearful way. It is here to keep you aligned in a focused way. Because what is being released is real, and it is already moving. But your awareness, your focus, your response will determine how clearly you experience it. And this leads to something powerful. Because once you remain aligned, once you move through this moment with awareness, what comes next is not just a temporary shift. It is a new season entirely. A season that will look different, feel different, and move differently from anything you have experienced before. That is what you will begin to see in the next section. Type "I protect my alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activated over your life. There comes a point where everything you have known begins to shift so completely that you can no longer return to who you were before. Not because you are trying to change, but because the transformation has already taken place. That is the season you are stepping into now. This is not just about receiving a miracle. This is about entering a new reality shaped by everything that has been prepared, everything that hath been aligned, and everything that has now been released. Your life is not going to look the same after this. Not in the way you think, not in one sudden dramatic moment where everything instantly becomes perfect, but in a deeper, more consistent shift that touches every part of your experience. It will begin in subtle ways, in how you think, how you respond, how you perceive what is happening around you. And then it will extend outward into your circumstances, your opportunities, your environment. You will notice that things no longer feel as heavy as they once did. Situations that used to drain you will begin to lose their hold. Thoughts that once created confusion will begin to settle into clarity. Reactions that once came from pressure will begin to come from calm understanding. This is not because the world has suddenly become easier. It is because you have shifted into a different level of alignment where things no longer affect you the same way. This is what a new season looks like. It is not always loud at first, but it is undeniable over time. You will also begin to notice that movement replaces stagnation. Where things once felt stuck, there will be progress. Where there was uncertainty, there will be direction. Where there were delays, there will be momentum. And this momentum will not feel forced. It will feel natural, like things are unfolding the way they were always meant to. Opportunities will begin to appear that align with where you are now, not where you used to be. People will respond to you differently, not because they have changed, but because you have. Your presence will carry a different energy, one that reflects clarity, confidence, and alignment. And that energy will influence the way others interact with you, the way situations unfold around you. You will also notice something else that is just as important. What no longer belongs in your life will begin to fall away. Not with conflict, not with chaos, but with clarity. You will recognize what does not fit without needing to force it out. You will feel the difference between what aligns and what does not. And instead of holding on out of habit, you will begin to release what is no longer necessary. This is part of the new season. It is not just about what you receive. It is also about what you leave behind. Because you cannot fully step into what is ahead while still holding on to what was meant for a previous version of you. There will also be a shift in how you see yourself. You will begin to recognize your own strength in a way you did not before. Not based on what you have achieved externally, but based on what you have endured internally. You will see that the process you went through was not just about reaching this moment, but about becoming someone who can sustain it. Confidence will not come from proving anything to anyone. It will come from knowing what you have already walked through. Peace will not come from everything being perfect. It will come from understanding that you are aligned. And this is what changes everything. Because when you operate from that place, you no longer react the same way. You no longer chase what is not meant for you. You no longer question your direction at every step. You begin to move with clarity, with intention, with a sense of trust that was not present before. This new season will not remove every challenge, but it will change how you experience them. What once felt overwhelming will feel manageable. What once felt confusing will feel understandable. What once felt like resistance will feel like redirection. And through all of this, you will begin to see something clearly. Everything you went through was leading to this. Every delay, every challenge, every moment of uncertainty was shaping you for a season that required a different level of awareness, a different level of strength, a different level of alignment. And now, you are here. You are no longer preparing. You are stepping into it. But there is one final thing that remains. Because this moment, this transition, this shift requires a response. Not just an internal understanding, but a clear acknowledgement that you are ready to move forward, that you are ready to fully receive, that you are ready to step into what has been prepared for you. And that is what the final call will bring. Type "I step into my NEW season" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activated over your life. There are moments in life that pass quietly, unnoticed, blending into the rhythm of ordinary days. And then there are moments like this one, moments that stand apart, moments that carry weight, moments that demand a response. This is not just another message you listen to and move on from. This is not just another passing thought that fades with time. This is a defining moment. A moment where heaven has spoken, where alignment has been revealed, where your miracle has already begun to move. And now, it is waiting for you to respond. Because every divine release requires a human response. Not a complicated response. Not a perfect response, but a clear one. A moment where you acknowledge what has been revealed. A moment where you step into agreement with what has already been set in motion. A moment where you stop questioning and start receiving. You have heard the message. You have felt the shift. You have recognized that something is different. And now, you stand at the edge of action, not physical action alone, but spiritual alignment. This is where you decide whether you fully step into what has been prepared, or whether you allow hesitation to delay what has already been released. You cannot remain neutral in this moment, because neutrality is just another form of delay. You must choose to respond, and that response begins within you. It begins with a decision to believe what you are sensing, a decision to trust what has been unfolding, a decision to step forward, not with fear, not with doubt, but with clarity. You are not the same person who started this journey. You have changed. You have grown. You have endured. And now, you are ready. Ready to receive what you once waited for. Ready to step into what once felt distant. Ready to move into a season that once felt unreachable. This is not about proving anything to anyone. This is about recognizing what is already yours. Because the miracle you have been waiting for is not something that still needs to be created. It has already been set in motion. It has already been aligned. It has already been authorized. And now, it is unfolding. But you must not step back. You must not hesitate. You must not question at the very moment where clarity has been given. Because this is where many people lose what was already within reach. Not because it was taken away, but because they failed to respond when it mattered most. You will not make that mistake. You have come too far for that. You have endured too much for that. You have been prepared too specifically for this exact moment. So now, respond. Respond by aligning your thoughts with what you now understand. Respond by staying present with what is unfolding. Respond by moving when clarity appears. Respond by trusting that what has begun will continue. Because heaven has already done its part. The call has been made. The authorization hath been given. A manifestation has begun. And now, the final step is yours. To receive. To accept. To step into it fully. This is your moment. Do not let it pass without recognition. Do not let it fade without response. Do not let it become something you look back on and wonder about. This is not a moment for wondering. This is a moment for knowing. You are ready. And what is coming is ready for you. Type I receive IT now in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over your life. As this final call settles into your spirit, understand this truth. What you have just received was never meant to stop with you. It was meant to multiply through you. Every time you sow into this mission through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are releasing seeds into a harvest of souls who are still waiting for this exact breakthrough message. The Lord declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." And right now, your giving becomes a prophetic act that opens rivers of light for someone else walking through darkness. I feel this deeply and personally. I am stepping forward in this moment because I know God is using this message beyond what I can see. Your seed becomes fire. Your obedience becomes oil. Your act becomes a gateway for heaven to reach further than ever before. Do not hesitate. Do not delay, because this is not a donation. It is a divine response to what God has just spoken over your life. Release your seed now, and watch how heaven releases back into you with increase, clarity, and undeniable favor.